Alright, in this video I'm going to make an update on the global war on humanity, how it all started all those months ago, and how I believe they're staging a counteroffensive. So the first part of it was the global pandemic and basically putting the whole world under house arrest for 2 or 3 months, which had extremely detrimental effect on the global economy, on people's lives, on everything. Okay, which I believe there's an ongoing war to change global society. That's what the whole thing was. Okay. So it started off with the house arrest. Nobody could move. Shortages of all kinds of strange things, toilet paper and meats, food stuffs, which that has over time, that's all dissipated. You still go in and can't find toilet paper and stuff in some stores, but it's back to where there's groceries in the store and everything else. And it's strange how they trigger this in people through fear. So they did this, and they had the phase 1, and they're into phase 2 where there's more freedom, and they're supposed to reopen everything 100%. So people kind of didn't really like it or agree with it. They went along with it to a point, but I think they're starting to notice where people are disagreeing and not believing what they're told. So in phase 2 or whatever, they released some of it. In some states they allowed concerts, bowling alleys, tattoo shops and that. But a lot of bars and restaurants are closed. Now, you kind of think, why is it? And of course, in this state, racing is big. There was one raceway that was opening to the public and created a lot of problems. And I mean, the governor himself tried to shut down the venue and all this other stuff. So once that was released and people were feeling, okay, this is over, let's go about our normal life and everything, well, that's not in the plan. Our lives are never going to be normal again, okay, until we seriously change, the power structure or how things are done here. I don't know how far gone it is or lost it is, but people got into where, okay, we're getting back to normal. So their little whole card here, or ace up their sleeve, they incited this racial rioting, okay, and a whole ball of wax. Now there were protests about reopening and that before, and protests about this, but now somebody kicked off this Black Lives Matter, the police brutality, and this whole United States is what it is, United States anti-police, and tearing down the structure of society. And because of this pandemic, all this power was given to localize the governors, and some of the governors even went to where the sheriffs and local authorities have the power to restrict or whatever, do things, declare states of emergency, which, to keep one statue up in Graham, they've declared a state of emergency in the center of town for so many blocks, so you can't move. So that's about the only good thing about that. But so now we went on a campaign, protest, riots, no justice, no peace, destruction of businesses. I guess they burned down most of wherever the thing started. I can't remember now, it's so confusing. Minneapolis or something. They burnt the one city where the whole thing started. They burned it down. And now they're defunding all the police, state police, local police. So there was this huge wave of, which is organized, it's an organized thing, so nationally. And it got so bad that people, friends and family in Europe were calling me and sending me text messages asking me if I'm all right, because it was reported in Europe that our country just fell apart and there was mayhem everywhere. and not so much the, which was, the big thing was the Confederate state monuments, Confederacy monuments, memorials, any of the Confederate flags that are entwined in a state seal or state flag, or even displayed in racing or whatever. And this turned into a total thing. They're talking about banning movies and changing any brand. So this whole very violent, and it was a violent, disruptive thing. Well, the problem is, the minute this phase started, you thought there was a gun shortage and a run when it started. There's a gun shortage and a run where I'm going to have to make a special video on this. This is different than the past panic buyings and runs. This is really, really bizarre, okay? Because the old panic buying and that was where people, it was more on gun rights and trying to make a quick buck, to where now the reasoning behind this, and with the historic gun sales, is how can this happen when we've sold so many millions of guns the past 8-10 years? Why is there a demand where there's nothing in the stock at all and you can't get anything? Okay, because all of this violent stuff, this protest, and kind of like, it's a psychological attack, psychological warfare that they put out in the news media to scare people, and they have scared them. They have scared them so bad you cannot buy 9mm ammunition for less than $25, $30 a box to save your life. Okay, gun shops, just racks are empty. All right, this is part of the psychological warfare, that just the fear. But what happened is, now they realize everybody's arming themselves, and the drive behind this, I had some foreign political analysts, I had their thoughts on this translated to me, and they said that this is all just like smoke and mirrors, this Black Lives Matter, and they had Black Lives Matter protests in Germany and several countries where, I really don't quite understand why or what the hell is going on, but they do have it. This is global, even in England. Okay, this is all part of, they got this saying on their, football. There they call it football, but their soccer team, for all you Americans, their soccer teams, which is big, it's like the NFL or, baseball here, are supporting this and all this other stuff. So this political movement is global too, which, for a lot of Americans, they kind of really don't care or understand, but it is. It's not just here. And then again, ripping down all the monuments, attacking everything. This was bad, and this caused fear. Now, the foreign analyst told me that, or he stated in his statement on it, that this is a maneuver or a ploy, that he doesn't believe there will be a civil war. A lot of people are saying we're going to have a civil war. This is going to split two ways, and there's going to be one side and the other, and that's how all wars start. But about the only good thing that happened with all this is the resolve of actual, just plain average citizens. Okay, not the hype, not the people who are swayed, not these people who are driven to either protest for one thing and counter-protest on the other. Just common, everyday people have been speaking out on social media, just saying, stop. Stop this. Okay? Yes, there is prejudice, there is racism, but destroying our monuments, defunding the police, attacking the police, and tearing down the mechanism that makes our society is not the answer or the solution to these problems. And what happened is, after a little bit of this and a scary point, just average people said enough is enough and spoke out. And this movement is kind of fizzling out. It's still there, and there's still people protesting, and there's still people carrying on in major cities. But like the analyst said, there is no organized, how can you put it? There isn't an organization behind this that has a political end, a viable political end. Okay, in other words, like to overthrow a government, you have to replace it with something. Okay, mobs of people ripping down statues and that is not someone or something that is going to overthrow a government and take over the place. So this kind of fizzled out, and now you don't even really hear much. After a few weeks went by, people got really incensed and upset. And the whole idea is to upset people, to get people emotionally worked up and unbalanced, so they're in a tormented state and they do not make clear decisions, is what this is all about. It's a psychological form of warfare. On top of the fear of the pandemic and the shortages and everything, now you have violent protests, ripping down of statues, attacking everything that the United States stands for on a one-sided view, and this is broadcast, And what this does is it really upsets people to the point where, the one good thing that came from all this is enough people stood up and said, hey, this is enough, stop. Okay, we're not going to tolerate this. And so it kind of fizzled out and backed off. So that was the second part of the assault. And it's not working. And this foreign analyst says the same thing. It's not going to work. It's not going to topple the United States. Okay, the people, And the reason he said is because there isn't some sort of organized movement or something behind there that could, if you destroy or disband or disassemble society and the government, there's nothing there to take it over. Okay, there's no force to go that's organized to regroup and take over. It's just an act of terrorism is what it is, to keep people unbalanced. So as this is kind of fizzling out and really you don't hear much about it, or I don't turn the TV on and watch the news, but you don't hear people getting incensed about it. They did for a couple weeks and then it all kind of died down. So now, where the counterattack comes in, and kind of why I posted this flag, which is the flag of the Polish Resistance Army. And what that is that was the forces that rose up in occupied Poland. That's the flag they flew, and they also wore armbands with that symbol on it. It only existed from 1941 to 1945. Okay, it's the Resistance Army, and I think it's a pretty good symbol to have because now this is what we have to come down to. So the first wave upset everyone. The second wave, the violent part, where they thought they'd teeter and trigger, and a lot of that protesting, I think people were looking to push the boundaries one side or the other to get somebody to break, because all we needed is one organization or one group, irregardless on what side, to start violently attacking the other, which there's been little spurts of it. But I mean where like an armed resistance just goes and flattens a shitload of people. That would have kicked off a war. I don't know if that's what they want, but it didn't, thank God it didn't happen. And so far, other than some incident up there in Oregon or Washington, some people took over a section of town. But really, they're holed up there, they're stationary. It isn't like they're advancing across the state or anything. It's more of some bizarre political statement. But fortunately, we've not had any mass killings involved with these protests, which would have escalated into things far worse. The possibility of it is there, and it is frightening. So people had the right to be afraid. So as all of this kind of peters out, now we have the counterattack. For some reason, with all of this going on and protesting, and then you tell them, well, why do you let the people protest and gather in huge group? Well, that's not going to spread the virus. Now, the virus is spreading out of control, and there's an epicenter in Florida, Los Angeles, New York City. Everybody's cool up in New York. New York ain't the place no more. And, you know, the first thing was because New York's has a very dense population in a small area, New York City. And that was the big thing during the first part. Well, that's changed now. Now there's somewhere in Florida, Los Angeles, and all these other places. All the states are reporting that the outbreak's even worse. So now the second wave that we're getting is now everyone must wear a mask everywhere you go. Okay, and like the old joke, if you're sleeping alone in bed, why would you wear a condom? It's an old sailor's joke, to protect yourself, okay? Yeah, this mask. And there is a citywide order in Greensboro that you gotta wear a mask. I've been to a couple stores and walked in. Walmart said you had to, which I did wear one there. Costco will not let you in without a mask, and it's been that way for months. So, you know, to get my prescriptions, got to do it, and I'm only in and out. I went to a sporting goods store, 2 of them, and I didn't wear a mask, and I got all these signs, and there are people at the door, and they just look at me, and they let you in, and half the people are wearing them, half are not. Go out, you see a lot of people wearing them because they just want to go about their business. Like you go to a home improvement store or something where guys are buying lumber and that. They're wearing masks because they got to get the job done. They don't need to be hassled or stopped. Okay. And you go in there and there are people that don't wear a mask. Okay. Same with anything. They do not stop you. I guess the thing is, if somebody did complain, and the police would have to be called, the police would come and ask you to put a mask on, and if you refused, then they would take you, escort you out of the business or area where it is. But I'd say 20% of the people running around in the city are not wearing a mask. If you go to the small towns like Randleman, that's why this place is targeted. They will not open the branches of the bank in that town. Alright, like I was saying, I had to edit out, had a phone call. You know, these small towns where nobody adheres to this, and there are any remote places you go, you don't see people wearing a mask that much. Like in the small town, it's the exact opposite. You'll see 20% of the people wearing a mask, and the majority don't. So, like Wells Fargo Bank, the closest one to my house, these places are closed. Now, why do they close it here? So you have to drive. I have to drive either 15 minutes one way to a bank branch that's open, or about 20 minutes the other way to the branch that's open in another city. I don't know why that they're closing this one small town branch. Okay, and you see this very selective enforcement of things. So now it looks like they're going back to phase 1. It looks like they're calling for a reversal. The governor's all bent out of shape. Also now, you can't travel. I can't go to New York, New Jersey, or some of the northeastern states being from North Carolina unless I'm quarantined. And they're saying that the rate of infection and hospitalizations has risen dramatically, so we may have to go back into a lockdown here. They're arguing about that. Nevertheless, are they going to ever open schools again? Are we going to have an education system in this country anymore? So now that's what I'm calling a counteroffensive. And every day it gets worse, and every day they say there's more and more people infected, more cases, more deaths. And the thing is, when they're saying this, wanting to put back the restrictions and the stay-at-home orders or shelter-in-place or whatever the hell you want to call it, now people are kind of really fed up, and this is getting intense. Are they gonna shut these businesses down again in another couple weeks? Okay, what's gonna happen? Okay, and it's kinda like, they did the one thing, kinda damaged things, it didn't work with the first lockdown. They started the violent protests, which really, really upset everyone. But then after it went on for weeks, the common people kind of just said, hey, this is enough, this got to stop. So it kind of did, because these movements and this propaganda protest just doesn't have the steam behind it. It's a psychological thing, just to hit you while you're down. You're trying to get over this lockdown and they hit you with this crazy stuff. And then people just said, you know what, had enough. So now we're going in, they're having a counterattack. And that's where this is now. All this going back to phase one. And I seen when I went to the bank today, they put the barricades up and it looks like we're in this phase one crazy mode. I don't know if they shut the bank down where you can't go in, have to all go through the drive-through again. You can no longer go in the bank. And now, the thing that contradicts them is they had daycares and they had places for children open, and a lot of people seen the local ones that the children were there. They even wanted to send children to camp here somewhere. And now they tested positive, and now that when they said that the coronavirus is not contagious or is harmful to children 12 and under, now that's all gone out the window, and there's these huge outbreaks amongst children and everything else supposedly reported on the news. So now all of this is in disarray. Our schools are not going to open, or going to be virtual schools. Okay, so our education system is totally out of whack. And my wife is a teacher, and they're changing what they're doing on a daily basis for the past 2 or 3 weeks. There is no plan, or they're changing plans and scrapping one idea and coming up with another. So it's just total mayhem and confusion. Okay, and it doesn't look good. Okay, so I guess we're going to have to wait and see how this progresses. Are they going to go back into phase one and really, this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good at all. And something's telling me that with all this nonsense going around, they're going to pull a fast one when the elections come up in the fall. There's going to be anarchy, okay, at election time. It's not going to be good, all right? So stay tuned, and I'll try to keep up with it and keep making videos while I can before I am removed totally from social media.